Welcome to another edition of Commission Conversations. My name is John Lux. I'm the Executive Director of Film Florida. Today, our guest is Todd Rubin from the Jacksonville Film Office. Thanks for spending some time with us today, Todd.
Great to be with you, John.
So we're all obviously dealing with the pandemic still. So Northeast Florida was a little bit ahead of the game in terms of opening beaches and stuff like that. So tell us a little bit about how the Jacksonville area is coping these days.
Well, the Jacksonville production community was without question impacted by this COVID-19 pandemic. However, once the national media reported that our beaches were open, we've seen a significant uptick, increase in production activity. So we can thank the national media for broadcasting and doing news stories that actually led to us to see some nice various types of productions coming in from out of town. So we're very fortunate with that activity. But at the same time, we've seen definitely a substantial impact that this has had as far as several months of stagnation, as everybody's experienced around the state and around the country.
So taking the pandemic out of the conversation for a minute, talk a little bit about Jacksonville just in general from a production and filming standpoint.
Well, John, Jacksonville's film history dates back to the early 1900s, where back then the former mayor and the chamber officials marketed the city as the winter film capital of the world.
Okay.
So they basically from 1907 to around 1917, there were several production companies that were based in the downtown area, and we saw there were a significant number of productions. Most, of course, those were silent films. In fact, Oliver Babe Hardy got his career start right here in Jacksonville. Numerous other stars that from that period would be located. They were located living here in Jacksonville during the winter months. And so fast forward to 1981, when Jackson was the second film commission that was established. Behind the first was Miami-Dade County. Some of the films that have shot here that are most notable, of course, G.I. Jane, directed by Sir Ridley Scott, starring Demi Moore and Viggo Mortensen. The movie Basic with John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson. Lonely Hearts, John Travolta back in Jacksonville for a second film. Also in that film was Jared Leto, Salma Hayek, and James Gandolfini. The HBO movie Recount with Laura Dern, Kevin Spacey, Bob Balaban, a huge cast. Spelling Entertainment, they filmed an entire series for Warner Brothers titled Point Man with Jack Scalia. Safe Harbor, starring Rue McClanahan and Gregory Harrison. This is just to name a few. So those are just some of the highlights.
Well, Todd, when I talk to the film commissioners, we like to look a little bit of off the beaten path locations. In your area, what are some of the lesser known locations that you enjoy seeing?
I would say Hanna Park, that's owned and managed by the city of Jacksonville, is an amazing location. It's 1.5 miles of oceanfront public beach with high-pitched dunes, no development along that nearly 2-mile stretch. This property consists on about 450 acres. It's located just a mile or two north of Jacksonville Beach. It's doubled for the Amazon jungles and the Amazon River, and films dating back to, Brenda Starr, that starred Brooke Shields and Timothy Dalton, who actually, when Timothy Dalton was on that film, it was announced that he was the new James Bond while here in Jacksonville.
Wow.
And it's been various locations for commercials, national spots, as well as other television and feature films. I must say, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that Jacksonville has been very fortunate with its very diverse locations. We've doubled for New England in the movie Pippi Longstocking, Louisiana in the movie Tigerland that was directed by Joel Schumacher, starring Colin Farrell. We doubled for Chicago in the movie First Time Felon with Delroy Lindo, and Omar Epps. We doubled for upstate New York, Utica, New York, in the movie Lonely Hearts with Travolta and Jared Leto and Selma Hayek. The Jungles of Panama in the movie Basic. Texas and Nashville in the HBO movie Recounts, just to name a few.
Yeah. Todd, some people might not know this, but Jacksonville actually has a local incentive program. Talk a little bit about what the program is, and then the kind of the future of it, given the current financial situation that everybody's dealing with because of the coronavirus.
Our program, the Jacksonville Film, Television, Digital Media Incentive Program, offers a 10% rebate on qualified expenditures with a $50,000 minimum spend in order to qualify. So that's significantly lower than our counterparts. And the maximum amount that a recipient, an applicant, could receive is $50,000. So if a production company spends $500,000 in Duval County on qualified expenditures, they would receive the maximum amount of $50,000. We've seen various productions, mostly larger scale commercial productions, taking advantage of this program.
And Todd, you've been with Film Florida a long time. You've been a very loyal member. You actually are a past president. And unlike some of the past presidents, you've remained really engaged. You've been the co-chair of the legislative committee for a number of years now. Why have you decided to stay so engaged in the organization?
Well, first, John, I am a proud Florida native, born right here in Jacksonville. I have been working in the industry for over 36 years with the city's film office. Don't tell anybody, but over 34 years. And I am just so passionate about Florida's film, television, and digital media industry. It's a wonderful experience to help Florida businesses and its talented crew. And I think that there's not a better way to be engaged by working with these wonderful folks here with Film Florida and serving as co-chair along with Paul Sermons, our former state film commissioner, is also co-chair of the legislative committee and serving and doing other wonderful things with the Film Florida organization.
Well, Todd, I obviously appreciate the support of Film Florida, and really appreciate you spending some time with us today and helping us learn a little bit more about filming in Jacksonville.
Excellent. Thanks for having me. Take care.
So after we finished the interview, Todd had something that he wanted to mention about the backdrop. Todd, go ahead.
Yes, where you are is a beautiful area called, that's the Ribault Club out at Fort George Island. And it was used in the CBS movie of the week called Intimate Strangers, starring Stacy Keach and Terry Garr. It was produced by Nederlander Entertainment. Those of you that are familiar with the name Nederlander, yes, they own a number of theaters up in Broadway, up in New York City. And so Gladys Nederlander, this was Intimate Strangers was her first of 2 television movies that she filmed here in Jacksonville. And Robert Ellis Miller was the director of that. And Michael Tadros worked on that one as well.
So there you go. The virtual backgrounds always are good for a good conversation piece. Thanks, Todd.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.